Hello there, it's Sarah from PaperLovely. Thanks for joining me today. I've got some clean and simple Halloween cards to share with you, and there I gave you a quick look at the stamp sets I'm going to be using. These are both by Ellen Hudson. The first one is called All Inside, that's the one with the bear, and then the second one is Bear Ware 2. So I'm using the coordinating die to cut out that bear because it's really sweet. It has the cutouts around the hands so that he can hold all of the little elements in the coordinating stamp set. So I always have trouble when I stamp the bear and then line up the die to cut him out. So I work in the opposite with this one. I went ahead and cut out two of those bears using MFT Grout Gray cardstock. I wanted something just slightly darker than the white card bases that I'm going to put him on. And then I hold down that cutout with some painter's tape and line up the stamp on top of that, and then go ahead and place that down. And that works pretty well for me. There you can see for the second bear, to make sure I had that lined up properly, I did the same thing over again, added a little painter's tape behind that, placed the second one directly on top of the first one, and went ahead and stamped that out. Here I'm stamping out a few of the extras from the Bear Ware stamp set. I'll go ahead and use some pure plum cardstock to do the trick-or-treat bags, and then I've got some masks stamped on Orange Zest and Limelight. Then I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut all of those out. Oh, I also did some of the witches' hats, and that was in MFT's Steel Gray. Now I went ahead and cut all of these out, and here I'm just popping back in to show you how I finished off the mask. There are some coordinating die sets for this stamp, but I don't have the die set, so I trimmed that out with my scissors, and then I was looking around and I saw that the smallest hole on my Crop-A-Dile is just about the same size as those stamped black openings. So I went ahead and lined that up. It's just slightly bigger. And then it's not a perfectly clean cut because usually we're going to be putting a brad through that, and this is some pretty thick cardstock. So I then took my pokey tool. You could use an awl for this, anything, even a needle you could use to go through and just kind of move that around the edges just to clean that up a bit. And here you'll see, I'm going to hold it up in a second for you, that works out pretty perfectly to cut out his mask. So at this point I decided I wanted a few more of those goodies from that Bear Ware 2 stamp set, so I'm stamping out the Witch's Broom on Safety Orange and a few of these jack-o'-lanterns again on Orange Zest. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, I wanted to create some really clean and simple cards, so I'm going to be working on basically a white card front, and I've made my card bases from MFT's whipped cream cardstock. Here I pulled out my watercolors and I've just added a little bit of water to my black paint. I'm just going to sprinkle that so I get a little bit of a splatter on the background. So I'm going to let my cards dry off to the side there, and I'm going to go ahead and get my bears all put together. I'm going to go ahead and add the treat bag and the broom behind this little guy. And there you can see how easily those slide right behind his little paws. That die is really worth it to be able to stick things there and have it look more realistic. As realistic as a bear carrying a treat bag and a broom can look. So I'll go ahead and secure those down with my art glitter glue, and I am really loving this art glitter glue, especially with that fine line tip on it. I have never been a huge liquid glue person, but I have to say, after giving this a try, I really like it. And then here I'm going to place down that witch's hat. And that's going to complete that little guy. I like to take my blocks and press down with the liquid glue just to make sure I get a nice tight seal. And then here I'm going to work on my second little guy. I'll again add that treat bag. And then go ahead and place down his mask. Next, I'm going to work on my sentiments. So I am using sentiments from the MFT Which Way is the Candy stamp set. I love this stamp set. It has the most perfect Halloween greetings, and I go to it really often to add even just the phrases to a lot of my Halloween cards. So here I'm stamping out Which Way is the Candy, and I'm stamping that on MFT's Orange Zest cardstock using my usual Simon Says Stampin' Intense black ink. And then the next sentiment I'm going to stamp on MFT's Persimmon cardstock. And that one's going to go along with the bear dressed up as the witch. It says, "I'm under your spell." Since I had my stamp stuff out, I grabbed 2 of my Neenah panels trimmed to 4x5 1/4, and I'm going to stamp out the sentiment Halloween greetings for the inside of both of these cards. Next, I'll take my sentiments. I'm going to trim these down fairly close. They probably measure just about 1/2 inch by the time they're finished. Then I'm going to grab some of my 1/8 inch Scor-Tape and run that along the bottom of both of those. You'll see I've got off to the side there some strips of some dark, it's sort of a dark gray, almost black glitter paper, and it's a matte glitter paper. I got this, it was a huge packet that I picked up at Tuesday morning a while ago, and I have saved every scrap from it because it is such a pretty matte glittery shimmer paper, and I've trimmed that down to 1/4 inch wide. So I'll end up, once I place it down, having about 1/8 inch sticking out along the bottom of both of those sentiments. And that glitter paper is die cuts with a view. It was like, I think, a 20 by 10, maybe even larger packet of paper. I've never seen it anywhere other than at that Tuesday morning where I grabbed it. So since that persimmon piece is just slightly too small to go all the way across, there I'm marking that with my fingernail where I want to cut it. And I'm going to trim that off, and then I will add a banner edge off to the side. And then on the back of both of these, I'm going to use some 1/2 inch Scor-Tape. I'll go ahead and place down that "I'm under your spell" sentiment, and I'm sorry I lost a little bit of footage, but I did just use my art glitter glue to place down that bear. And then I'll do the same thing with my sentiment here. And then I'll go ahead and trim off that excess. And again, use my art glitter glue to place down the bear and the pumpkin. And I do make sure to hit the back of those paws really well to make sure that they're nice and secure down. Finally, I took a few scrap pieces of that matching cardstock. I've got Orange Zest for the bear with the mask and matching Persimmon for the bear dressed up as the witch. I'll go ahead and just place a strip underneath each coordinating inside panel. I'll go ahead and trim off that excess, and then again I'm going to use that art glitter glue to go ahead and place those panels on the inside of each of the card bases. And that will complete the cards for today. Here are a few close-ups of the finished cards. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies that I used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.